Eno Extreme Media UJ. Subscribe for all updates.
Political corruption is the mother of financial bureaucratic corruption. And so you cannot tackle corruption unless you understand the concept of political corruption. Quite often, interventions against corruption, because they concentrate on bureaucratic, administrative, financial corruption, they are treating the symptoms rather than the real disease. And when you treat symptoms, definitely you will not eliminate the disease. Accountability. Diagonal accountability is this one which is exercised from civil society, like Uganda Law Society, like the media, like the academia, like the NGOs, like the cultural organizations, like the business associations. Those can exercise diagonal accountability. So we have three: diagonal accountability, horizontal accountability, and the vertical accountability. So I will at the end show whether these ones, there is space for these forms of accountability to be exercised. But now let me first look at this case study, if you want, or case to be talked about today, which is political accountability in respect of corruption. And quite often I have found that we don't understand corruption. And so interrogating this concept will help people to have intervention measures against this vice of corruption. And today, I will concentrate on political corruption, which is least understood, or not even understood at all. And in my opinion, political corruption is the mother of financial bureaucratic corruption. And so you cannot tackle corruption unless you understand the concept of political corruption. Quite often, interventions against corruption, because they concentrate on bureaucratic, administrative, financial corruption, they are treating the symptoms rather than the real disease. And when you treat symptoms, definitely you will not eliminate the disease. Yes, I should not be understood to say that symptoms should not be addressed also. They should be addressed meanwhile looking for the underlying cause of the disease. In this case, we are using a metaphor. We are referring to corruption and political corruption. So, please pay attention to these concepts I am going to delineate. I invite you to do this one seriously by looking at the different types of corruption. I've already given you those types: political corruption and bureaucratic administrative corruption. But let me now go to the conventional, well-publicized, well-known corruption, which is financial, refers to things like bribery, paying somebody in order for a service; embezzlement, going to the public coffers and abusing your office and taking the money; or extortion, forcing somebody to pay you in order to get a service. That is extortion. Those are the conventional forms of corruption that people know about. And those ones treat symptoms. They don't go to the underlying challenges of abuse of office by public officers. There is even a definition by the World Bank and the Amnesty International, which I think is treating the question of corruption halfway. That corruption is defined as abusing public office for private gains. Yes, but not enough. That is half the truth. At times it is for public gain, for a section of public gain. Somebody goes and steals public funds and takes to his constituency, either to the church or distributes it to the people. That is for some sectional public gain. That is also corruption. But let me go to the different forms, different types, or what we call typology of political corruption. Political corruption. I invite you to understand political corruption. 1, favoritism. Favoritism has 2 types. One is nepotism. Nepotism is favoring close relatives, brother, sister, wife, husband, son, clanmate, tribesmate, in-laws. That is nepotism. And that's a form of political corruption, which distorts public resources, which distorts governance, which interferes with institutions. One form of favoritism, which is nepotism. I'm told it comes from the word nephew. That the priests, at one time, the clergy in Rome, used to produce children indirectly, even if they were, even at one time actually they were marrying, but even when they stopped them marrying, they would still, the clergy would still steal the institutional funds and give them to the nephews. So that's where nepotism comes from. So nepotism is a form of political corruption, which is part of favoritism. Next is cronism. Cronism. It is also favoritism, but favoring friends, club mates, whether you meet in Kampala Club or there is a club down here. What is it? Golf club? Something like that. Those you meet, or girls, old boys, associations, or party supporters. That is cronism. And when you favor those ones, you can't fight corruption. You can't fight financial corruption when there is that favoritism. I hope that is understood. Nepotism, cronism, and then patronage, which is also related. A patronage client relationships. You use public resources to create a clientele of political supporters. And those political supporters cannot be held accountable, neither can they hold you accountable, because you have developed a relationship of favoritism, of favoring each other. And that is another form of corruption, which is favoritism. In terms of, you favor people in terms of appointment, or appointments in the government offices, in licenses, in shielding them from arrests, in giving them information, because information is also a form of corruption, which people have not tackled. You are in a government, you hold a position of responsibility, and you give information to others, and you shield it from the others. When scholarships come, you inform your people to get them before others have got them. When there is oil somewhere discovered, they discover oil, you tell people that there is oil here, and the following day they will have their cows there. And somebody said that sometimes cows have sensors in their hooves. They will know where oil is. That's where they will stop. And the next time, the cows have developed now sensors in their hooves. So they will know, they will stay there, and when the oil is being explored, there will be compensation. When the road is going to pass somewhere, Tamaka road or whatever, or railway road or whatever, then you inform people that it is going to pass here. They construct a building, a Kasimoro building. When it is being dismantled, they will pay you in billions. That is favoritism through either nepotism, cronyism, or patronage. Are we together? Yes. Another form of political corruption is called pork barreling. In simple terms, is budget corruption. You've heard of budget corruption. When they are making a budget, allocations are done favoritively. You just bribe people to take something in your constituency or this or that. You had those ones who were arrested. Unfortunately, again, they were pardoned. They were excused. They were forgiven. You know that. It is common. And one time, a certain Namuju, yes, that lady, the Honorable Namuju, in Rwengo, after the prison, she went and held a celebration. And the speaker, Honorable Among, and Honorable Chinjamatama were at that celebration. And they did mention that when you go and steal public resources, you abuse your office, get your hands into public resources and embezzle them, as long as you bring them to your community, it is okay. Did you hear it or you didn't hear it? And people clapped. And then anti-corruption institutions, the IGG, anti-corruption state house anti-corruption institutions, they didn't go there. They didn't ask those officers for having publicly, officially, formally declared that stealing public resources and sharing with your community is fine, is okay, is approvable. And you say you are fighting corruption. We are not serious. So there is pork barreling, which is budget corruption in terms of allocation. Another form of political corruption is called rogue rolling. This is buying votes. Dear listeners, can anybody tell me that we are going to fight corruption? We are not serious. During elections, let's start with the most important election, in my opinion. Elections to the central executive of the NRM party, SEC, which is meeting tomorrow to make decisions for this country. Didn't you see corruption? Didn't you see aspirants buying voters? It was public knowledge. It was on radio. It was on TV. It was seen that those people were bribing people to vote them to be members of SEC. And that is a central executive committee, the Politburo, that is going to decide the direction this country is going to take. And they went to those offices after they had bribed the population. This is what is called rogue rolling, buying votes, and you are going to a position of responsibility. And you go around telling people you are going to fight corruption? We are not serious. The Politburo, the Central Executive Committee, bribed their way into that position. And you go and look at those who are in the Central Executive Committee. They are rich people who bribed their way into those positions. It was common knowledge. Others took people over outside in hotels. Others were buying them here, right and left here in Kororo. We are near Kororo here. Come on. How will that central organ of the state, of government, fight corruption? So rogue rolling is buying votes is corruption. But everybody bought, up to councillors, MPs, They bought votes, and those are going to be in charge of public affairs in this country. Another one is called rent seeking. Rent seeking. Those of you who are young and are even still in academia, note some of these types of corruption. Political corruption is called rent seeking. You seek rents. Tax evasion. You go to those in authority and you ask for special license to be favored. Hey, by the way, Wasarure, the former deputy IGG, has a very good concept which I like. He says that in Uganda, corruption is licensed. In Uganda, corruption is licensed. And when you lose favor with in politics, that license can be revoked. So the one of Anita Monga has been revoked. But before that, she had a license. She had a license. She was legally doing that. I mean, Parliament was, what did Agora do? Public display, called what? Exhibition. They exhibited. But as long as she had a license, nobody touched her until the license was revoked. So if you are involved in this public corruption, political corruption, be sure that you keep the license. Once it is revoked, you're in trouble. So, rent seeking, you can evade tax, you can have tax exemptions, you can have tenders and contracts. This is, most of the rich people in Uganda, not all, most of the rich people now are kayunjirizi. Yeah? They know how to pursue where there is a tender, where there is a contract. They are not wealth creators, they are wealth speculators. And they are seeking for rents. And when you don't know how to seek for rents, they say you are not smart. They are very smart people who know how to seek rents. And they get rents. But you must be well politically connected. And therefore political corruption. You must have some kind of gambanogu before you get the rent. So I had already talked about information leakage. That is to say, information leakage is a form of corruption. To know where there is going to be land compensation, where there is going to be oil discovered, where there is going to be uranium. We don't know the mineral map of Uganda very clearly. One of these days, if you have a small plot of land, you receive somebody giving you 10 billion, and you will be happy not knowing that you will be given $1 trillion because there is uranium in that place. Why? Because for that person, he has the information or she has the information. For you, you don't have it. That information holding, information asymmetry, and then leaking it to those who are your clients is a form of corruption. So, what is the way forward now? That is in terms of, as I told you, we want to talk about, there are other forms of political corruption. I have not exhausted the list. If you want to pursue this one, I don't know whether Uganda Law Society have got a research department, and you want to pursue political corruption, I am ready to join you, and we delineate this form of corruption called political corruption, which is the mother of financial, monetary, bureaucratic corruption. As long as the source of corruption is politically connected, you will not address the other one because people will be having licenses. You can't deal with somebody. You won't do, I am told that there are anti-corruption institutions, IGG, I don't know, CGE, Public Accounts Committee of Parliament, I don't know, President's Office, State House Anti-Corruption Committee, I don't know what. As long as the individual has a license and it is not yet revoked, you will not do much about that individual. Are you getting me? Once you are somebody is still licensed, you will not go very far. There is going to be cabinet, you are going to see. They are going to appoint people who are involved in Mabati. to reappoint them. People went and took Mabati of Karamoja. Those who had license were pardoned. Those who didn't have, this Nanduta, I think she didn't have the license. But the others had license, and they have got off the hook, haven't they? There is a group of MPs who, some members of MPs and others who took money for cooperatives. You remember? Because they had a license, they went off the hook. They went for elections. They are back. They are going to be appointed in big positions. But if you are in Nanduto and you don't have a license, or if you are Anita Monga and they revoke your license, you will be in trouble. But before they revoke it, you are in business. So now let me conclude by looking at how can we intervene. Intervention so that we have political accountability, so that those in positions of responsibility are accountable to the citizens, or accountable to each other in different horizontal ways, or are accountable to the civil society, the media, and NGOs. First of all, these people with licenses, you know, they go around in the villages even dishing out money, yeah? So that they get some cheering. They are cheered. You know, those of you who are Christians, you know, there is a good Samaritan. Eh? These ones are bad Samaritans. We have got politicians who are bad Samaritans. Those who go and corrupt people during elections so that they are brought in power are bad Samaritans. So how can we handle these bad Samaritans who go around splashing money to the people and getting clients and those? So political space, there must be political space, and this political space must be respected by government. If government doesn't give people political space to fight corruption, government alone will not fight corruption. I'm not saying government is not making efforts here and there, but they have to give people political space, the citizens. So the civil society who actually helped to do whistleblowing, they think whistleblowing is going individually to say quietly, secretly, this one is embezzling. We want that public display. What did you call it? That exhibition. That exhibition is fighting corruption more than small whistleblowing, because it is dealing with institutional corruption, public corruption, political corruption. Now, the people who did that were charged. I think they are out on bail just. It was very shameful. And good enough, that group even included NRM people. NRM young people, the media people, the women people, the young people, they were instead arrested. So where is diagonal accountability? Where did it come from? If you whistleblow at that public level, open level, and you are arrested. I think government needs to give people space to expose some of these. The media, NTV, and Monitor have tried to be independent and expose some of these forms of corruption. What has happened? They have been banned from going to cover parliamentary proceedings, isn't it? So, how will you fight corruption when you are chasing away an anti-corruption crusader politically? Those are the ones who don't cover, I think, the president's salaries. They have been stopped from that. They are not given government tenders. So civil society is now being fought. Instead, they are being arrested. NGOs have been either closed or their accounts frozen. And yet these were the biggest whistleblowers because they do it at institutional public level. Now, as long as that political space for political accountability is not open, we are tinkering with the seams, at the seams. We are merely treating symptoms We are not going at the source of the problem. Another political accountability horizontal now. Can we give space to Parliament? Parliament, some members of Parliament, the opposition, the committees, have raised some of these issues. Taking this example of Parliament, hasn't it been raised there before? Yeah? These people, these commissioners who gave themselves money, there was a lot of shouting. Kosase did a lot of shouting. Some members of Parliament, even on the government side, raised these issues. I think this man who wants to stand for, I don't know whether he's in the race, raised it there, even quarreled with the speaker about the exhibition. They were ignored because the person still had the license. So, unless you open that space for horizontal accountability, then there won't be very much. The judiciary, the judicial officers, there is a certain judicial officer, a lady, I think, who was almost terminated somewhere in Ginger because she had raised some of these issues. They keep quiet, they are threatened. I think this Gondante, the justice, has just mentioned something after when he is leaving. But you know why he is doing that? Because he was intimidated to keep quiet. So the judiciary should also be given space. So should be Parliament, so should be the opposition, and even government. You know, even the NRM MPs, the so-called rebels, when they tried to open to talk about these things, they were rebels and they have been sorted out. Now they are not going back to Parliament. So when you are a good debater in Parliament, the one who is fighting corruption at the political level, and you are sorted out meaning you are deliberately targeted not to come back to Parliament, then you are losing the cause of fighting corruption. Civil society, Uganda Law Society, the Radical New Bar, when you talk, they will take you to Rizira. They will threaten to take you to Rizira. And then fight corruption. So the question of political accountability here, at horizontal level, vertical level, and diagonal level, needs to be revisited. We need to revisit this one and give space to these whistleblowers. The whistleblowers I have in mind are not those who go secretly. I'm talking about those who go publicly. Publicly go and say there is something wrong here. And then the government should also equally respond appropriately. So, I am calling upon the anti-corruption institutions like the IGG's office to look at political corruption, favoritism, cronyism, vote buying, rent seeking, nepotism. There is this one, I think these days when we go for meetings, they normally say, declare your interests. Huh? Before assets, there is declaring interests. What is the other term? You declare your connected interests. Conflict of interest, exactly, that one. Conflict of interest. We have got a lot of conflict of interest. Is the IGG's office handling conflict of interest? You know, they are not doing that. That is why people employ their relatives. Either their relatives through nepotism or cronyism. If you go to most of these big offices, I don't know even whether this office, the executive director sits at the top. Normally the executive director sit at the last floor, isn't it? Yes. Now, if you don't know the tribe, the ethnic group of the CEO in a storage building, in a storage office, if you want to know, scientifically speaking, and you enter the building, just listen to the language the people at the floor are talking. Just keep listening. You will hear them short waving. Now the language they are short waving in, whether there's a sweeper whether the bodyguard, whether the personal assistant, whether the receptionist, just listen. When you hear the language they are speaking, know that is the tribe of the person on the 8th floor or the 10th floor. Isn't it? Why? Because he has started, when he entered the office or she entered the office, she started appointing people from the same ethnic group. Now, are we fighting corruption? You go to these different offices, you go and do that research and hear the language they are speaking. They are short-waving, those people. So, when we are talking about corruption, even this one, to me, this one of displaying these vehicles, I'm not saying we shouldn't display them. It is not the fundamental issue. That's not the fundamental issue. The fundamental corruption that distorts institutions, that distorts development, that distorts the governance of the country is political corruption. I beg to submit. Thank you for listening.